Let's move ahead, ladies and gentlemen, with another Power Pack conversation specifically about how the virtual platforms are providing greater support to the BFSI companies. In the last 1 year, the world has managed to run their business and communications far more seamlessly only because of virtual platforms. And if you look at the virtual platforms, the name which is on the top of the list is Zoom. And I have with me the CIO of Zoom, and we are going to discuss here how the Zoom has been trying to scale up BFSI communications and collaborations. So let me welcome Mr. Harry Moseley, the global CIO of Zoom. Harry, welcome to this discussion. And moving ahead in this conversation, we are going to learn about how the Zoom is going to scale up BFSI communications and collaborations. And my first question that I'm going to shoot to you, Harry, is what kind of demands do you see from the BFSI companies in the current in the current time, or in the way of communications? What are the BFSI companies demanding from the virtual platforms?
Yeah, so companies broadly speaking, irrespective of the industry and geography, are looking for more collaboration capabilities in the virtual environment, which is which is exactly what Zoom, what our vision is, because our vision is all around how do we make the virtual environment better than the actual in-person experience. But we've been hard at work at that for the last 10 years. And, as evidenced by the various metrics that we publish, whether it's our daily meeting participants that grew from 10 million in December of 19 to over 300 million in April of 2020. Our annualized meeting minutes went from 100 billion in January to over 3 trillion in October. I think that is clear evidence of the trajectory that we're on. One last point is that, COVID-19, has hurt the world in a variety of different ways. On the other hand, it has actually accelerated the adoption of the virtual environment and has accelerated businesses of all sorts, in all industries, in all geographies, on their trajectory of digital transformation.
True, Harry. In fact, all the companies, and specifically BFSI companies, are far more aggressive in the digital transformation. And, in fact, there is a term that they're using as a platform banking these days. They just don't want to be limited to traditional banking, but, partnerships, collaborations, and now platform banking. So if I ask you specifically, Harry, and if you could share your learnings with me, how can BFSI companies scale up their communications, engagement? Because that's where the BFSI, specifically banks, insurance companies, are heading. They are just not giving the basic service of, account, credit, and debit, but, they want to build strong communications and engagement with the customers. How can they scale it up?
Yeah. So clearly video is the new voice. Amol, it's like, can you imagine us having this conversation just using a regular phone call? I can't read those non-verbal cues. I can see your smiling face. I can see when you're nodding in agreement. So if I'm selling insurance to you, if I'm selling banking products to you, if I'm talking to you about portfolio, if I'm talking to you about investment strategies, etc., the natural tendency of people is to express their positive sentiment or their negative sentiment by smiling, by nodding. Nodding means, it's I'm agreeing with you, I understand what you're saying. If you're doing this, it means that I don't understand, I'm not agreeing with you. Those nonverbal cues are super important. And we've learned that over, sort of the last 12, 14 months. This video voice is critical to every operation, and in healthcare, in financial services, in professional services, and we're seeing this also transcend now into like service management. Think about it when you're making a service call about an issue that you're having. Wouldn't it be great if you could connect one-on-one with that person who's providing the help to you, to be able to share with them the issue that you're having on your laptop, or to turn on the camera on your smartphone so you can point to the device and show the connection or show the issue, etc. And then they can provide real guidance to you. which would take, what could have been a 20-minute conversation down to 5 minutes. And also, one last point is when you think about the ability to connect with multiple parties in a virtual environment, it's so much easier than when we try to do it as an in-person event because of travel, congestion, parking, all of the stress that goes with it. So yeah, so I think those are some of the things.
Agree with you, Harry. In fact, that expression when you actually talk to each other. I mean, obviously, that typical physical touch is not there because you can have a coffee. I can see you having a coffee. Maybe if we would have met together, we would have a tea or a coffee together. But nonetheless, at least I can see you nodding. I can see your expression, and that matters a lot. Actually, that's where a lot of relaxation also comes because that's where the company can convince their customers or whatever they can do. So one important question, Harry, I have here specifically about the challenges. So yes, the BFSI companies, specifically banks, insurance companies, even the mutual funds are trying to build those strong communications. But what are the major challenges or the pain points they face in communicating in a digital language today, according to you?
I think there's a couple, like we said earlier, we're dependent on the network, right? So, long have I maintained that the network is everything. Without a high quality network, it's all bets are off, so to speak. With Zoom, we can actually handle poor quality networks and still deliver a fantastic experience. But I think, so I think that's one of the issues. Two is learning curve. People's ability to be able to leverage the products and the platforms. And as you said, sort of in your opening remarks, Zoom has become almost the de facto standard for sort of connecting people around the world. We have, sort of 6-year-olds using our platform and 96-year-olds using the platform. And I think that sort of is clear evidence, if you will, of the ease of use of the Zoom platform. But if it's if the use is difficult, if the use is clunky, if the user experience is hard, that's going to be a very hard challenge to get people to adopt the platform. So it's super important. The network, user experience, ease of use. Those are the things that people need to be looking at.
Okay, important points, Harry. But like I, first said in my opening remarks that BFSI is a sector which is has been using digital as a tool far more aggressively than any other companies. Look at the digital transformation, specifically in a payment space, even in a credit space. They're disbursing loans instantly, and payment has been just going without even you think about it, right? A fraction of seconds. So my question to you here, or maybe I will take more learnings from you here in terms of, if BFSI companies are far more aggressive in collaborating and partnering, and they're believing in collaboration and partnership models because they're partnering with fintechs, they're partnering with startups and, new tech companies. What kind of scope do you see for yourself, to join and, to partner with these moves?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Clearly, as we said a couple of times, the Zoom quality, the Zoom platform is widely adopted and widely used, and it is incredibly reliable. That's part of sort of the founding elements, if you will, of what Zoom was built on 10 years ago when Eric Yuan, our CEO and founder, went off to build Zoom. It wasn't just the ease of use, but it was the incredible reliability, the innovation, price competitive, and being private and secure. And by many CISOs now around the world, we are regarded as the most secure platform. So we have the ability. You have the ability to take the Zoom platform, what we call customized SDK. So you can take the elements of Zoom and embed them into your proprietary applications. So if you're building a banking app, if you're building an insurance app, you can actually take the components of Zoom and embed them into your proprietary app to make it super easy and super efficient for your clients and your customers to leverage the Zoom platform.
That sounds really unique, Harry. Haven't heard much about it. Is there any user case study or something like that? Are you already doing this with some global banks or something? How's the experience? Could you just share more?
Yeah, so HSBC, as an example, we're all familiar with them, the largest bank in the world. Are leveraging Zoom for mortgages in the UK, for home mortgages in the UK, so that the mortgager, the bank can contact the person who wants to take the mortgage on their property, rather than have someone to come into the bank. But the nice thing is that they can connect to, the two people, husband and wife, who might be wanting to take a mortgage to buy a new family home. They can connect to the two people independently in a virtual environment, put up the documents, have that eye-to-eye contact, have that discussion. So absolutely, is when you when you look back, can't remember the time frame, somewhere back in 2020, Goldman Sachs did a $2.9 billion stock offering for SoftBank, leveraging the Zoom platform. So there's many use cases like that.
How has been the experience? I mean, when you say that you're connecting to people, how has been the experience? How has been the experience for a bank? Has bank seen some positivity there? Has bank seen some uptake over there?
Yeah, I think that financial services in general, sort of whether it's investment banks or wealth management, to be able to connect with their clients, it sort of dramatically reduces the friction in terms of connections. Investment bankers aren't spending time on planes and trains and having to travel. So actually, in a couple of use cases, I can't give you the names of the firms. They've actually seen an uptick in volume, an uptick in interactions, an uptick in sort of being able to connect with their clients. I was talking to one of our financial services clients in the retirement space recently, and their average associate would have like 4 client interactions a day. Now they're having 8 interactions a day, which is incredible. So they're seeing more activity, they're seeing better relationships being established, etc. And fundamentally, sort of there's a general move towards this virtual environment for financial services. Of course, we do like, the idea of breaking bread together, the idea of seeing each other, we look forward to the days when we can get back and shake hands. A couple of institutions I've spoken to are moving towards, they're going to continue these virtual environments for the transactional stuff, but then have more of a social gathering for their clients on like a quarterly basis. So they can bring their clients into a physical space, have like a cocktail reception, have a lunch, and then talk to them about, sort of the financial services as a sector, talk to them what's happening in the market. So give them all sort of like a market overview, and allow then the bankers and their clients to sort of connect to each other in a physical environment, but not to talk about their portfolio, not to talk about transactions, but to make that human connection, so that when they have the virtual experience, we're not sort of strangers, if you will. We're not like just a digital experience. So we have the physical and the digital together. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. But I would like to ask a very important question, which partly touched that in your previous answer. That question is about security, Harry. If you look at the BFSI companies, the only one big question which they have is the security or the privacy. In fact, one of the top banker in India once said, "I'm not worried about anything, but what gives me sleepless night is the security." That's the only one thing. So what is your view specifically on the security? Point number one. How important and what kind of is for virtual platforms like Zoom and many others, while they are working with BFSI companies to ensure that the security is on the priority. That is second. And third is also, if you could add, what are the precautionary measures that you are taking to build and a strongest security for whatever app that you're going to embed with the banks or whatever that going to do with the banks or BFSI companies?
Yeah, so let me see if I can. There was three parts to that question, and let me see if I can hit all of them. So first off, sort of from a general perspective on security, the bad guys are finding ways to intercept and sort of challenge us on a regular basis, if you will. So and they're getting smarter every day. So this whole sort of challenge from a security perspective is paramount. And on the other hand, we see great technologies and great companies who are providing fantastic solutions to combat that threat. So I feel relatively confident that, with the right protocols in place, much like we have from a health perspective, but with the right protocols in place, with the right tools in place, with the right behaviors in place, with the right training in place, we have the ability to combat the general security threat. But it takes work, and it takes training, and it takes tools, and it takes technology. In the financial services, what are we doing specifically? We provide an end-to-end encrypted service. We rolled that out last October, and then we did an update on it earlier this year, where we can now have 1,000 participants on a fully encrypted end-to-end. And you can see it actually operating right now, because if you look at the top left of your screen, you'll see a little green shield. That means that this is an encrypted meeting. So no part of this is being decrypted other than at the endpoints. If someone were to join by a phone, the green would go to orange, because now we're having to decrypt this communication to be able to go over a phone line. So we're very focused on being transparent from a security and a privacy perspective. If you look at the Zoom chat channel, Zoom chat as an example, in a chat channel, it's very easy to see who has access to that data, who has visualization to that data, and we're doing a lot more around this topic, because so trust is everything, Amol. If I don't trust you, I'm not going to work with you. If I do trust you, right, I will work with you. So trust and safety is like super important. And at Zoom, we take this topic very seriously. What was the third part of your question?
Third part of your question is how Zoom is trying to build the strongest security while partnering with the banks.
Yeah, so I think I just answered that, which is like being yes, transparent and yeah.
Okay.
And we pride ourselves on sort of thinking about our clients as partners. It's all about our partners being successful on the Zoom platform, because we fundamentally believe if our partners are successful, we'll be successful. And trust is a huge part of that. Being transparent is a huge part of that. We have the sort of we have the perspective of, you can ask us anything, and we'll share that with you.
So before ask you this question, let me give you an analogy. In India, we have a lot of public sector banks, or we call it a government banks, traditional banks. And the major challenge which they face specifically in the digital transformation is a cultural shift. Maybe a CEO or management wants to make a digital transformation, but people at large, specifically operating at a lower level, are unable to accept those changes, because moving that cultural shift is a big challenge. So considering all this challenge BFSI ecosystem is facing, my question to you is importance of platforms like Zoom. We all know about it, but in terms of not just building a communication strategy, but building a cultural shift and creating a business value for the BFSI companies, what are your views on this front?
I mean, if I was building a bank today, as an example, like what you were just talking about, clearly leveraging their virtual environment to make it super easy for people to access professionals, get banking knowledge, get banking experience, conduct banking business. That's the game in town now. It's like it's all about the ease of access, the ease of use, and being able to connect to people. I think that we've seen over the last 14 months how important it is, how critical it is in every aspect of our lives to be able to look somebody like I'm looking at you right now, look at you in the eye and have a straight conversation about it. I mean, you know, whether it's you're talking to your kids or you're talking to your parents or you're talking to your cousins, being able to sort of see and hear people. We don't know, you know, there was an expression, I don't know if you used it in India, but in the US, we used to have this expression, can you hear me now? It's no longer about, can you hear me now? It's, can you hear me and see me now? That is the default. And I think so if I was building a financial services, a banking platform today, virtual is the way to go. Video is the way to go. And I'm not just saying that, quite honestly, because of the logo on my business card. I know who I work for. But I would have said that, and I did say that previously prior to joining Zoom. Video is the new voice. And so building a platform, leveraging the technology. When you look at sort of when you look at our kids and how, you know, sort of how they use these tools today for music, for connecting with their friends, for education, etc. They're growing up using these tools. They're growing up knowing how to use these tools. And when they, you know, when they graduate and they go to work for, you know, our great companies and great organizations around the world, they want to continue to operate and function in the same way as they did through their personal and academic life. And so there's a great, massive opportunity in front of us. You know, as they say, it's not about where the puck is, it's about where the puck is going. So this is where it's going. Or maybe it's better to say this is where the puck is now. So we need to think about where it's going from here.
Yeah, sure. Quite interesting. In fact, I like this the statement. Can you hear me now? Can you hear and see me now? You know, quite interesting. Harry, in fact, quite an engaging conversation, I must say. Some new learnings for me as well. But moving ahead, I will take one last question with you, and that question is specifically about Zoom. What are the new things that you are going to add to Zoom? We all are aware about the platform, but anything specifically that you see that you can do at Zoom in terms of new technologies, new virtual backgrounds, or something new that, because you know, we believe that the pandemic is not going to end very soon, and the second wave is quite miserable everywhere. So, you know, the world is going to be in a virtual world for, you know, quite some time going ahead. So considering the demand of the virtual world, are you going to make any changes in Zoom? Are you going to add some more, you know, what I can say, benefits, facilities to Zoom? If yes, what are those facilities or something like that? If you could give us some sense on that.
I'll try to do that, given this is a public audience. So, you know, sort of when Zoom was founded again 10 years ago, one of the, you know, so it was founded on the 5 principles, right? Ease of use, we talked about, reliability, we talked about, but innovation at speed and scale, you know, that's what we've always been known for, is innovating in a, you know, with new tools, new capabilities, new widgets, if you will, new capabilities. You know, as they say in life, copying is the best form of flattery. Everybody, you know, so everybody's always copying Zoom. So, you know, I think that's kind of interesting in its own right. In terms of, you know, sort of the new things, you know, we've recently released a whole bunch of new features, you know, whether it's like the virtual receptionist. So rather than have to have somebody physically greet you in the office, you can walk up to a touch screen and check in with a virtual receptionist. The receptionist could be on a different floor, different building, different city, different country, could actually be at home. So that's just one of them. We're looking at So that we released capabilities now where we can measure the number of people in a room, number of people on a floor. We can look at the air quality in the office. We can gather all of these metrics in our dashboard technology, voice activation of Zoom rooms so that you can walk into the room and go, hey, Zoom, start meeting. The ability to take your mobile device and tether it to a conference room and manage the conference room from your mobile device. Continuing to on the journey of making a virtual experience better than an in-person experience. We have one of our capabilities is our webinar platform. Our webinar platform can host up to 50,000 people. Think about that, 50,000 people on a webinar. But now we're taking sort of capabilities from other elements of the Zoom platform, like breakout rooms, which are in meetings, taking breakout rooms over into webinar. So imagine this, if you're in financial services, you can do a webinar to 50,000 people, and then you can have breakout rooms. So in this room, you can talk about the auto industry. In this room, you could talk about the retail industry. In this room, you could talk about the banking industry. And then you can have people automatically go into these different rooms at your virtual webinar. This is great stuff. We see the world from a work perspective becoming hybrid. So let me just sort of back up on that. Work is not a place. Work is something we do. When I go back in time, Amol, I would say to my wife in the morning, I'm going to work now. That was actually a lie. I wasn't going to work now. I was going to the office now. When I get to the office, then I would work. Work is something we do. The office is a place. These are separate things. We've proven factually over the last 14, 15 months that we can actually work from anywhere. If I'm so bold to say, I don't think you're working from an office right now. I think you're working from your home. I know I'm working from my home. And so organizations are thinking, what is the purpose now of the office? What is the, sort of why do we have an office? And the office, generally speaking, is now about bringing people together to work on something together, because we've proven that we as individuals can work from anywhere. So the challenge is going to be, the challenge is how do we get people to come to the office even when we want to work together as an office, work together on a topic. You could say to me, hey, Harry, it's like, I'm going to be in the office next Monday. Why don't you join me? Because I want to work with you on, Project Green. I would turn around to you, Amol, and say, well, Amol, I don't really want to do that 2-hour commute to and from the office. I can effectively join you over Zoom. So why wouldn't I do that? So the challenge is that organizations need to rethink their office. They need the office to be inclusive. We've experienced that over the last 14, 15 months, how inclusive it is. The office needs to have the ability to collaborate. We need to be able to do digital whiteboarding. We need to be able to annotate. It needs to be absolutely safe. We need to feel, physically safe and medically safe. And then it needs to be super exciting. And why do I say these things? Inclusivity, collaboration, safe, and exciting. Because all these things together will give you the tool to say to Harry, why don't you join me in the office on Monday? And I think about it and I go, yes, because it's going to give me something that I can't do from home. And this is where the challenge, this is the big challenge. And so super excited about what we're doing in this space. As an example, we have what we released our immersive views last week, which is the ability to do fireside chats, or the ability to see people in an auditorium, to see people at a boardroom table, and things of this nature. But what we're also working on is something that we call Smart Gallery. And Smart Gallery is, so imagine there's a meeting of 6 people. 3 people are in a conference room. Excuse me, 3 people are working from anywhere. So the typical view would be a view of the conference room and 3 little heads. So how do I read nonverbal cues when I'm looking at a conference room? So our Smart Gallery technology will take the individuals that are in that room and stream them out as individuals to the remote participants, so that they can read the nonverbal cues. I can see you as an individual in that conference room, even though you're just one of 3 people. And so I can read that body language, I can read those nonverbal cues. This is going to be a game changer, absolute game changer from an inclusivity perspective, as well as all the other technologies that we've introduced. So it's, we're super excited about this. And then we didn't even talk about our Zoom phone platform, where we have the ability to make phone calls, elevate phone calls into video, elevate the phone calls into content sharing, use the chat platform, elevate chat into audio, into video, into content sharing. This is, it's the simplicity and the ease of use and the reliability and the security, all of these things wrapped up with great features and great functionality. That's what we do. And we do it really well.
Oh, thank you so much. And please do well. I think quite a meaningful conversation, Harry. Thank you so much for taking part into the discussion and sharing your perspective. Thank you so much for being part of ETBFSI virtual conclave. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amol, for inviting me. And again, my prayers and best wishes to you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, and to the country as a whole. I'm a big fan of India, have been for years. It was funny, we were talking to some friends of ours who live in Bangalore on the weekend, and we were reminiscing how, wow, a little over 3 years ago now, when we had our vacation, we were in Goa, we were in Bangalore, we were in Kannur, Cochin. So it was my wife and I came with our kids, and I love the culture, I love the people, I love the food, and looking forward to a day when we can come to India again and see our friends and experience your great cultures.
So you're always welcome. So thank you once again, Harry, and see you soon.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.